Hello, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you for tuning in today again to our weekly session where we take your questions about U.S. immigration live. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Once again, I practice U.S. immigration law, headquartered in Los Angeles, California, but we help people from across the world, across the country. Almost everything we do just requires mailing the government, calling them, emailing them, uploading, and stuff like that. So we help everybody everywhere. In the cases that we do, marriage, green cards, fiancé visas, extraordinary ability, EB-1A green cards, E2 investors, L1 investors, and these are the primary kinds of cases, but also people getting ranch permits, applying for citizenship, and getting advice on what's going on in the student visa process and the like. So we'll take your questions, not intended as individual legal guidance, just for general kind of information, what's going on. So again, we're not lawyers for you. Got to schedule a private consultation to talk about your case. If you wanted to do that, go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. Again, that's jqqlaw.com/contact. It's our website, JQK Law, on the contact us page. Once you go there, put your name and phone number and some basics about your case. So we'll see what's going on, and we email or reply to you about, if we could have a consultation. If it's not the kind of case we do, for example, if you ask for asylum case, we don't do asylum. So we wouldn't be able to help with that. Well, Angela, thanks for coming on the show. But that's the big picture right now, what's going on there. There's a lot going on in the immigration world under the current administration. Big Supreme Court decisions, big congressional decisions that are going to reshape how not just immigration is going to look like, but America is going to look like in the next generation. This is generational changes happening. It's terrifying if you are an immigrant. It does, to say it lightly, of a thing, especially the new bill of prolonged detainment, the ability of the government to just pick up people, as we're already seeing. So it's a pretty terrifying event that's happening. And unfortunately, a lot of it is quote unquote legal. So there's nothing you can do. It's a very troublesome experience to see happening before your eyes. But that's the nature of what happens for endless wars and endless debts eventually culminates in this kind of situation, and the vampires, if you will. So we'll see how that country metamorphosizes into the next system. But that's going off way off topic. So if y'all had some immigration questions, please let us know here. And we'll start answering the best we can for general education and purposes. Okay, so let's talk a little about marriage green cards happening right now. We're going through a ton of interviews right now at the USCIS. They slammed USCIS field offices, that's the immigration department in the United States, with interviews for citizenship. So I went this next 30 days, I'm going to go for like 5 or 6, maybe like 8 of them, because we got scheduled so many. And yesterday I was at the USCIS field office in Los Angeles. There's U.S. Marine troops stationed at the office there. It was very troublesome as well, seeing U.S. military personnel in there. But the officers said we're slammed. We're coming in from morning to night. They're unloading these cases. Computers just scheduling them regardless of what's going on, and they're slammed as well. But it was, it's good in some cases. Our clients are getting the green cards much faster. We're getting cases approved after 2.5, 3 months of filing. But at the same time, it's a lot of preparation that goes for an interview to do it right, document accumulation. Clients want us to go, so it really slams their schedule when they do something that would have taken spread out through the next 6 months, all in 1 month. Imagine asked a question that we get a lot is, would you recommend getting married before 90 days and filing adjustment after 90 days? So I don't have any recommendation because I'm not your lawyer. What you're worried about is a so-called 90-day rule, which is if you do something counter to what your original intent was when you entered the United States. For example, you came as a tourist or student, and then you apply for a benefit and show actions that aren't congruent, don't match up with what your intent was to entry. They could accuse you of fraud. Now, when you're married to a U.S. citizen, it's almost never a problem. But again, on administration, a lot of things are changing. I haven't never seen it be a problem unless the person had other issues, criminal issue involved, or they just made admissions that didn't make any sense. But so I can't recommend. There's other channels who say, yeah, wait 90 days and do this, try to sneak in. I can't recommend and give advice to people how to sneak around stuff like that. But you got to see what kind of status you had to enter. Is it a marriage to U.S. citizen or green card holder? What other evidence you have, whether you do get married within or outside 90 days. Did you have a return ticket? What was your goals when you entered? All that kind of stuff to show the facts around it. So in our cases, if someone comes to us, for example, they're here on a visitor visa and they decide to get married, or they even come after to us, they got married the next day after entering, we file those cases and haven't had problems. But, we show the person had a return ticket, they had a life back home, a job back home, just in case they get into, which I've never seen them get into, to show that it wasn't intent, but people sometimes fall in love. And sometimes when you're in love and you're dating someone long distance, when you finally see each other after many times, it's very hard to say goodbye. It's just a natural kind of thing that people who've been in relationships and love could feel. So people change their minds. So that's something that happens frequently. But we need more facts behind your case. And under the current administration, things are changing. So we have to see what's going on in your case and some risks you have to take on. Big Deal says, if I have the qualifications, how can you assist me in filing the L1A visa petition? Well, first of all, Big Deal, we got to see if you do have the qualifications, because on the website, it seems simplistic, both the L1A category, EB1C, and the EB1A extraordinary ability visas. The government makes it look like, or at least the websites for USCIS.gov make it look simpler. But first, you have consultation and spend hours on your case to see if the L1A visa is an intercompany transfer, where there's a foreign company that's associated with the U.S. company, for example, a parent subsidiary, their sister companies, and the like, or they're owned by one person or one entity. You're transferring like a manager, executive, or a specialized knowledge or a function manager work, all that kind of stuff, to the U.S. L1A is executive or manager. And so if you could show that the companies are related and the person's executive or manager, you could do it, and they work for 1 year abroad. But the definitions of what an executive or the manager are different than what you would typically think they are. They're not the definitions that we have when we're talking, oh, I'm a manager of a restaurant or something like that. The way they define it is like this nebulous concept. This means like this, they don't define it at all, essentially. And so we have to like fight them on it frequently. So Big Deal, we got to see all the basic stuff about the company, corporations, working abroad for 1 year, all that kind of stuff. And push in admissibility issues, make sure your background's okay. Once that's done, then we got to analyze what your work is. Are you really a manager? Are you really an executive? Do you have people that are under you? What kind of employees are they? What kind of education do they have? How many people are there? How much day-to-day activities do you have to deal with? What are the jobs that you do on a day-to-day basis? What are you planning to do in the U.S.? Does the company have enough money to afford you in the U.S.? How long has the U.S. company been open? What kind of documentation do we have of your employment abroad? How many documents are you going to need to translate? Might need to translate hundreds of documents. Are you willing to do that? So that's just the start of it, to go through a proper L1A case. Now, what you'll find is for L1A, if you hire a lot of law firms, they just use the same, and I don't want to bring down this. Some lawyers do this, but like, they'll just take an old case and they'll just put your name on it and send it in. And it may work. If it doesn't, then they'll start working on it. But I don't believe in doing that. I like to do everything from scratch and make sure it's good. So these are heavy intensive cases, because what's important is L1A is a temporary visa, which you could have up to 7 years. But eventually, after 2 or 3 years of being here, you're like, I want to stay. I want to get a green card. So right at the beginning, our job is to plan out how the green card is going to look. L1A is a dual intent visa. You could plan out a green card with it. And so it's like some lawyers just get the initial visa, but then it's like, oh, we have to renew it. You're going to file for a green card. You may be married. What's going on with the wife, his husband, what's going on with them? So there's a lot of long-term thinking that's to go to have this properly done, which is not done by companies who do volume, because they just can't do that. Our firm is designed to take low volume, a few cases, so we can actually sit and plan out, their life the next 10 years. So that's what we do. Schedule a consultation. Go to jqqlaw.com/contact. See you, user, one of the regulars. Good to see you. ABC on Instagram says, hello, sir. Got documents qualified end of January this year. Still waiting for an interview here in Canada. How long does it usually take to get an interview in Canada? Well, what you do is go to Google, type in DOS IV tools, and the first website comes up, IV scheduling status tool. Is the website, Department of State webpage. They just created a month or two ago, where you could check to see from the time someone's documents are qualified, when are they scheduling this? Now, one thing you didn't mention is a type of case you have. You just said you got documents qualified. It means you have a green card case where the initial documents were approved by the National Visa Center. But when you go to that website, there's different ways. So if you're an immediate relative case, a parent, spouse, or minor child of a U.S. citizen, and you go to Montreal, Canada, which is the embassy that does these interviews, right now they're interviewing cases that were documentally qualified in December 2024, so 7 months back. Now, I'm not sure how often they'll move that forward or not, so at least, cases 7 months ago are getting interviews. However, if you had a different kind of case, you were doing a Montreal case, Canada, for embassy processing, but it was like an employment-based case, and we looked up the timelines for that. Let's see if it's going to be different or not. They're April 2024, so over a year back. And if it's family sponsored, let's say your brother or sister of a U.S. citizen, that's August 2024. So this is where when people contact us, we need to know chunks of information, analyze it, look at it. People tell me, oh, I got documents qualified at end of January. And then we look up, they mean January 2023, or they weren't documents qualified. They just submitted the stuff. There's been no response now. So there's all this kind of stuff for National Visa not responding. So we got to see what it is, but that's a big picture there. TK says, where should we ask questions? Right where you're at. C user says, in giving the 10-year green card for the 2 years of marriage, what is the time that matters? When they first enter U.S. non-immigrant visa, or how many years they have been married during interview? So there's different things. So essentially, when the green card is issued, they look to see, have you been married more or less than 2 years at the time of green card issuance? If less than 2 years, then they get a 2-year green card and they have to do removal conditions. Do another application 2 years later, I-751 removal conditions. And when you enter the U.S. on immigrant visa, that's the day your green card is issued. Whereas in the U.S., when the adjustment of status officer clicks the approve button, that's the start date. And you see users, can they delay things to get the 10-year green card instead of 2-year conditional? Thanks. Yeah, definitely. That's something you can do. And it's legal. But if you're going to get an immigrant visa in particular, you get your green card through the embassy, you delay your entry if possible, because there's limitations how long your immigrant visa is valid. But let's say, your case is pending 1 year or 10 months. If you wait another 2 months, you'll straight up get a 2-year green card, a 10-year green card. I apologize. Then yeah, you just wait extra 2 months before you fly into the United States. Now, there are certain times, like if you're from certain countries like Iran, you wouldn't want to do that because there could be a travel ban announced all of a sudden, which happened. So you want to beat that from happening. Although there was an exception in this travel ban this time around for 2.0, where if you had a visa still valid, they'll be behind you. They say they'll still accept it. But yeah, there's strategic that can happen. Now with USCIS doing adjustment of status, I mean, you could ask the officer, please hold on to it for another 2 weeks before you approve it, but then you have less control over that. But that's the situation. There's a very tactical, good thing to think about. Thanks for the question, C user. Adam Wall says, and for all those watching on TikTok or asking questions, I'd recommend joining our YouTube page, U.S. Immigration Talk, asking your questions there. Because on TikTok, we get inundated with questions. It's hard to keep up. But on the YouTube channel, we have a better system on the computer to check the questions. And plus, just a smoother flow of things. Adam Wall says, is the new citizen law from the Supreme Court that gives President Trump the right to revoke citizenship from kids born on the American soil but not so parents a law? No, that's not. He doesn't revoke citizenship. He just won't give citizenship, but that's not law. There's still time to try to figure out what's going on. So that nothing has moved on that yet. It is another thing about national injunctions that happen, but the child birth thing is still like up in the air. ABCXYZ says, follow up. We tried to expedite my case, but was refused. Do you think that delays our interview? I'm in a spouse visa. Thank you. Probably not. Nothing happens. Lauren Jabber says, my husband got approved today for his green card. Congratulations, Lauren Jabber, one of our regulars for many months now. I'm so glad to hear that everything went smoothly. Congratulations again. I appreciate sharing that information and celebrate. This is wonderful. Thanks again for telling us. Smile says, what happens if you miss ICE report date in Federal Plaza? I don't handle those kind of cases, but probably they're going to put you in some sort of expedited removal or, some bad stuff. But I don't handle people who have to deal with ICE, so I'm not an expert on that. TK says, is the answer yes to question I-485 for my adjustment status question? Have you applied for an immigrant visa to obtain a PR, a green card, at the U.S. Embassy abroad if I was a spouse of a DV winner submitted DS-260 16 years ago? Well, that's an interesting question. So have you applied for an immigrant visa? You did DS-260? I would say yes and explain what it is to be safe. I mean, this is individual legal guidance. I'm not telling you to say yes or no. I got to backtrack that because there might be other things related to that submission I'm not aware of. That can be troublesome. So I'm not giving you advice. Maybe sometimes when we're not sure on these kind of things, we do explanations and leave it up to the government. But that's very case specific, telling you how to fill out a form. So I'm not permitted to do that. So unfortunately, I can't help you with that. Vala says, hi, John. I'm an Iranian whose K1 visa was received by the embassy just before the ban. My interview is July 1st, today. Should I attend the interview knowing that I'll be denied or rescheduled for now? This again goes to individual legal guidance. And it follows up, if denied, litigate or apply for sale, which is faster. This is a big unknown. So you could go. The officer may recommend a waiver on his own, his or her own. We don't know if that's going to happen. Litigation is sometimes fast, sometimes slow. CR1 can be fast or slow. CR1 is a marriage green card. You have to get married first. That takes time, all that kind of stuff. So there's no answer which is faster. It's just what a risk you want to take on yourself, knowing the consequences. And that's that. There's no good options. Just you got to see which one you want to use based on your own perception of things. That's why it's best to have a consultant ahead of time so you plan a little better. But there's no real good answer to any of this. CU says, congratulations. Thanks. I think you meant for Lauren Jabber. I appreciate that. Big deal. Answered your question. Chalk says, hey, sir, hey, too. User wants 5 cents. Says, is humanitarian parole for Afghans including a recent travel ban? I'm waiting for my visa outside. The government always has a right to parole people in the United States, so it probably doesn't. I haven't read the statute to particularly look for that. But humanitarian parole is like this government exception. They give it, they can allow you in. But don't quote me on that because I'm not an expert on humanitarian parole. Chalky says, I have my immigration naturalization interview. Should I go to do it? Because in New York City here, ICE are here. ICE is everywhere. If you have a good case and you have a background issue, it's not a reason not to go to your citizenship interview. But I don't know your background details. IQ says, USCIS never asked me for marriage proofs and they schedule an interview. Is that normal? Yeah, it's normal to take proof with you to the interview. Sandra says, if I have an asylum-based green card, do I still need a refugee travel document along to travel? Yeah, you shouldn't use your home country passport. Hernan says, what happens if they don't make a decision on Honduras TPS by July 5th? I don't know. I'm not making track of. I haven't been keeping track of Honduras TPS, so I don't have an answer for that. Interview schedule. Mowanka says, interview schedule in 2 weeks. What to carry with me? I don't know what kind of interview you have. Is it immigrant visa, adjustment of status, if it's marriage or employment-based case, family-based case. Generally, you need to bring, your birth certificate, passport. If that's the basics, but I don't know enough about you to be able to say if you're married, divorced, police record or not, what type of case it is to back up the I-130 or the I-140 petition, or potentially like a diversity visa. You might need high school records. So the question doesn't have enough information for me to be able to answer that. Lauren Jower follows up. My husband got, okay, that way I answered your question. I appreciate that. Sean says, so can green individuals travel if their backgrounds are clear? Yeah. Okay, Smiley. I'm going to have to mute your account, unfortunately. You keep asking the same question. It's not being fair. And let the show go smoothly by keep asking the same question over again. And I have to mute a couple other people, too. I just keep asking the same question. Okay, let's see. Okay, Akib answered your question. Anastasia says, we have an interview, already submitted the forms. Do we still need to bring them? Not the forms themselves, they have that. You got to bring the other evidence as requested. It'll be in the notice they sent to you. TK follows up, thank you. I wasn't the principal applicant, but the beneficiary spouse of the DV winner. He was interviewed and denied based on not having the education requirements. I was there, but wasn't interviewed. That's something you'd want to mention. That's better to mention. Now, if you're doing adjustment of status, that's something you should have mentioned on previous visa applications too. Potentially, that could be a problem if you didn't. Salah, you really should talk with him race training private. Salah asks, if I applied for adjustment of status on the basis of DV and same time applied asylum and got the interview for asylum before adjustment of status, should I reschedule asylum interview or withdraw my asylum and apply for just on status? One is, I wouldn't withdraw your asylum. That's too dangerous thing to do because they could immediately just come and pick you up if you do that. They could do that anyways, but for sure they could do that. And secondly, just because you filed for asylum while your adjustment status is pending doesn't mean you could do diversity visa lottery. I see a lot of people, unfortunately, do this. A lot of videos on this on YouTube. Majority of the time, once your tourist visa expired, even if you timely filed the asylum application while your tourist visa or other visa status was valid, 9 out of 10 times they'll deny your adjustment of status green card lottery case for saying you haven't maintained status and just deny the time of filing in the adjustment status application for diversity visa lottery. So it's very important to be aware of that. And then once your adjustment status is denied, potentially ICE under current administration can come after you. So it's a messy situation. Definitely need to talk with an attorney that knows what they're doing on this stuff or has experience with it to properly guide you. I Love You Jesus says, I overstayed my visa in 2008, got TPS since 2010 for Haiti. My US citizen father applied for me in July 2017, went to interview in September 2024. I electronically signed green card. My risk I overstayed. I electronically signed green card. So yeah, there's major problems it seems there. What is, you mean you went to an interview in the US for adjustment of status? So if you got a case as an adult, either F1, adult unmarried child of US citizen, F2B, adult unmarried child of green card holder, F3, married adult child of a citizen. If you had a gap and it's from 2008 to 2010, then potentially, most likely, they'll deny your case for adjustment of status. And secondly, if you electronically sign a green card, sign the forms, I think that's what you're saying, then that itself is a reason for denial because you can't electronically sign USCIS forms for adjustment of status. That's TPS is online many times, so you can do that. But if you mean you need I-45 adjustment of status for the green card, then that's so you have many problems there right now. I 100% recommend talking to a lawyer as soon as possible to properly review stuff. Some good news for you is my colleague who's involved with the lawsuits about Haiti TPS just told me that they had a big win a couple of hours ago, and you're going to be hearing that in the news for Haitian TPS. So wait for that. It's going to extend your TPS because the Trump administration wanted to get rid of it. Again, for those coming on TikTok, please ask a question on YouTube. There's more chance to get questions answered there. They get priority. Sanjay says, I have an asylum green card. Do I still need to have we answer that question? Yes. Don't use your home country passport. I Love You Jesus follows up. I'm F1. Yeah. So F1, you have to maintain lawful status continuously. If you didn't, that's problematic. TK says, thank you so much for your response. I appreciate I answered no, but explained in my offer application. I'm not certain if I should answer. Okay, if you explain, that's good. Sal says, I applied for adjustment of status while in status, so my asylum is safe to withdraw. Just keep it until AOS. Yeah, if you withdraw asylum, they come and pick you up and put you in immigration detention. So, maybe reschedule or something like that. But this is so individual. Like to want to withdraw asylum case has so many consequences. You really should have like a full conversation lawyer, not like over a live show like this. Ali says, thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so my internet's being bad again on StreamYard. Let's see on these things. So let me check Instagram. Okay. Saul Rose says, my Indian friends want to come illegally to apply for asylum, get a green card. Is that even illegal? It's going to be more and more problematic under this current administration, but we don't handle asylum law at my office, so I defer to other colleagues for that question. Shah says, you need to get work permit first. Okay, I'm not sure what reference that is. AB says, do I need to disclose expired preliminary protective order in I-485? I have to see what the order says exactly, what it's in connection to, and all that kind of stuff before I can advise you on doing something big like that. Zishan says, I'm a citizen. My spouse abroad, I-130 expected in 2 months. Minor kids in 17 months. How can they come together? It's kind of hard to do this, but expedite the kids' cases and say I want to match it with my spouse. And hopefully they could expedite it. But I'm not sure why he's saying 17 months. Those numbers are kind of wild. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. The USCIS timelines they have are not reliable, so just don't rely on that. Hugh Tyre says, how long does it take to schedule O ceremony after passing citizenship test? That depends on a local office. They could do it the same day, or they could do months. It really depends on how their calendar schedule looks like. MK says, is N400 under high scrutiny 3-year rule? Historically, no. Just some evidence of living together with your spouse, so let's use a 3-year rule. But that could all change in the current administration. Luna Kuto says, how can I find out if a lawyer submitted any paperwork for U visa, he went MIA? You should do a Freedom of Information Act request. I haven't done one for a U visa before, but check that out. One issue with the U visa is it's taking months to get a receipt, so that could happen. But I'm sorry to hear that the lawyer went MIA. That's a terrible thing to happen. Shafiq asks, terminated my asylum and waiting on I-485 pending 15 months. There's something wrong happening. Check your alien number with EOIR. Make sure you update your address. Terminating asylum could have problems associated with it. Adora says, is it bad to have more than 4 pending cases with immigration? Well, it depends on what the cases are. It's not bad. It's pending cases, but I don't know what kind of cases they are. If you have a deportation hearing case, and the other ones don't matter. Deportation is pretty serious. So this is not enough information to be able to advise you based on what he told me. Aha says, what happens if your husband permanent resident gets denied, but you guys are separated? If your husband gets denied, then they're going to put in removal or deport them. CB says, are they accepting, approving prosecutor discretion for someone who has an order of removal? They have the right to do that if they want. It's just harder to do it right now. CB says, are they accepting? Already answered your question. We got a lot of repeat questions coming up. Let's skip through those. Tom Miller says, on the new big bill, it stated that VAWA was going to be canceled. What would happen with that? I haven't read any section about VAWA being canceled in the new bill that was passed, the big beautiful bill, if you will, OBBB. But maybe I missed it. I was reading or reviewing it a couple hours ago. I missed that part. But it would have been big news if they're canceling VAWA. User 92 says, if a DACA person gets a DUI, will they be deported? Well, they could lose their DACA or not be renewed, and they could be put into remote proceedings. It's a possibility. Farid asks, would the case go faster if I get married after my fiancé interview was denied due to Trump travel ban? It's not faster or slower, but that might be what you have to do. CU says, how do you get proof address change with USCIS? You do it online system nowadays, so that'll give you something. You take a screenshot, and I think they used to email you stuff, but it's hard to get that. But essentially, just do the online system. There'll be some sort of record after a couple of days there. You can take a screenshot of it. Zishan said, I applied 3 months ago for kids after getting citizenship. They were dependent on spouse I-130. Oh, I see. So you shouldn't have got citizenship in that situation, but you got to keep calling and trying to get the kids' case to expedite the I-130s. Zishan, I had a lot of, I'm guessing you're from Pakistan. I had several Pakistani clients who I'm doing the same thing that you're doing. You got to try to get the I-130s expedited. That's the only way to do it. Z26 says, how long do I wait for interview if the embassy approved everything? They didn't approve everything. They just without documents they qualified. That means they just looked at the paperwork and basically it looked okay. And it really depends on which embassy you're going to 26 Bakar and how long they're taking. Each embassy is different. Each case is different. Each case type is different. Caesar says, yeah, thank you. Screenshot, no receipt whatsoever. So that's the annoying part. I mean, sometimes it's off and on if they send you a receipt, but you'll be able to see in the online system when you log into your account. Idora says, I have a asylum case pending, I-130 dad pending case, and I-45 denied. I wish to file VAWA. Is it bad? You got to do what you got to do. We got to see why that case was denied, what was the issues were, how strong your VAWA case is, how strong your asylum case is, what your personal history is, any arrest history, how you came to the United States, all these kind of things. User 92 says, should a U.S. citizen have an immigration lawyer on quick dial upon entry into the country from overseas? So I see a lot of lawyers say, oh, have me on quick dial. They talk and TikToks on it. Technically, immigration lawyers can't do anything when a person's entering a country. It's a national security zone. So not much you can do. Now, if you're a U.S. citizen, there's criminal issues, you can contact a criminal lawyer because there's a right to a criminal lawyer, right to request a lawyer in those kind of situations. But immigration law doesn't have that. At most, it's good to, if you have a relationship with an immigration attorney who knows you, they could have a G28, some paperwork signed that allows them to talk with the government with you. And if the government officers at CBP, Customs and Border Protection, the people at the airport or the border are nice, they may talk to the lawyer, fill them in, and give the chance to the lawyer to explain or hear about what the issue is, to try to talk with them and stuff like that. So it's nothing official. It's more just like if the government's being nice enough, kind of, talking with them to sway their way. But it's hard because the lawyer has to be on dial. It's to ready to go, and probably nothing's gonna happen. But that's the situation there. Well, Gonzalo says, do you think Trump will end birthright citizenship retroactively? I don't know. We'll see. AB says, do I need to disclose expired? We already talked about that. Juan Campos, thank you so much for joining. Good to see you again last week. Sonia says, good evening. Submitted case in April. Fingerprint in May. Interview in July. Anything off of the timeline? No, that's just regular case. Bob says, can one remarry your U.S. citizen spouse before filing Form I-751? Remarry U.S. citizen spouse. I'm not sure why you do that. So you got a green card based on marriage. You divorce and you get remarried. If that's the scenario you're talking about, it's possible. They may. That's a weird situation. It doesn't happen. So you probably do removal conditions with a waiver request and explain what happened and see what the government says, because it's a bizarre situation. It's not something that happens every day. Mildred says, my asylum case denied, but I have a VAWA case pending. What does that mean? It means you have a VAWA case pending. It's going to take years. Hopefully, they don't pick you up in the meantime or send you to removal. Apple user 58 says, how much time do we need to wait on a visitor visa to marry U.S. citizen? I can't answer that question, how to scam the system. But if you came and, you changed your mind, then you could, get married and file a green card case. It just depends on showing that your intent was temporary. You didn't change your mind. So we have to really go to see what documentation evidence you have of that and if it's truthful. Katie says, I-130 approved after interview, but I-485 still pending. Hartford office should be worried. Sometimes that happens. We had a case recently that happened. I don't know your case to tell you should be worried. So I don't know how the interview went, what you said at the interview, what kind of evidence of your relationship you have. If you had lawful entry, any arrest history, criminal history, any misrepresentation, any issues with national security or diplomacy. So without knowing all these pieces of information, I can't tell you whether you should be worried or not. S6 says, got denied for missing documentation. Now I reapplied 3 weeks ago and I have an interview in a month. Yes, the government's rescheduling a lot. Is that bad? Not necessarily, because they're rescheduling stuff really fast, but it's a crazy thing. What is 90 days rule? So Apple users are about to end the show, and we had a detailed conversation about the 90-day rule earlier in the show, right at the beginning. One of the first questions, probably the first question I was asked. So I'd recommend going to our YouTube page, U.S. Immigration Talk, or JQK Law. I think both of us come. Look up the recording of this, which will be up as soon as I say goodbye, or at least you can watch it now. It's a live show. So go to our YouTube page, and at the beginning, I go over the 90-day rule and my thoughts on it. Shireen says, hello to you too. Fada says, can I still get married in the courthouse? Yeah. Shireen says, I need one question. Okay, we're about to end the show, so if you're going to get some questions, get them out now. Sonia says, thank you. You're welcome. User 49 says, can I travel with my green card in Haiti as 10 years and come back here? Generally, a person can't travel with a 10-year green card. Whether you could do it, I don't know, because I don't know your personal background history. So it's how you got the green card, if it was done properly or not. So not having any information about you, I can't tell you what to do or not to do. It's too dangerous for me to say something like that. AB already answered your question earlier. So that's it for today's show. Immigration lawyer John Khosravi. If you want to schedule a private consultation, please go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. Fill in the information there, your name, phone number, email, and briefly about your case, and we'll reply to you with your email about the next steps, about how to move forward with our firm. Immigration lawyer John Khosravi. If you're interested in a marriage or fiancé visa case, we have an ultimate marriage green card guide. Please go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. The website is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Down the ultimate marriage green card guide, it really gives you a lot of information about the marriage process. Having said that, God bless, be safe, and we'll see you all next Tuesday. Bye-bye.